We are live. We can continue.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our second episode on Risale-i Nur discussion about the Quranic truths concerning the Creator, God's attributes, and divine unity. We will continue from the perfection of Lordship from the second ray in the Risale-i Nur Collection. We have Harun Hojam from North Dakota. We have Fatih Abi from Philadelphia. And we will expect Colin Hoja to join us soon. Last week, we talked about 3 examples of lordly perfection. First one was about God's providing sustenance to the infants. Second one is healing the sick. And the last one is attracting human beings to belief by divine guidance. We will continue where we had left last week.
Hussein, can I just chime in to
Yes, go ahead.
allude to an ayat last week? Actually, I had talked a little bit. I had mentioned that most likely Said Nursi pulled these examples of healing, hidayah, guidance, and the others as well, from a verse where, Ibrahim alayhi salam did such supplication. So today I looked at it and I found the source. It is Shu'ara, Surah Al-Shu'ara, starting from verse 78. Ibrahim alayhi salam says, who created me and he guides me. That's the hidayat part. And next he says, and it is he who feeds me and gives me drink. That's for sustenance. And then it says, and when I am ill, it is he who cures me. So I think exactly that's most likely, I would say Said Nursi pulled these examples from this verse particularly. So I think it's to contextualize, this second ray. And we know that he's putting his personal perspective, right? Why he wrote this second ray in the first place. He's talking about what happened to him. Like he was perceiving that, people are suffering, there are calamities happening. By the way, it's just the time after the earthquake, right? We are having the similar feelings. And it's kind of, it is justifying how right we are to feel in the same way. And moreover, he just tells us how Quran's mystery and guidance just cured his perspective in a way. And he's just teaching us this perspective. And I'm fascinated how to say, it's kind of, he is just becoming an example. Even he's not talking, he's just reporting what happened to him. In order to write this meaning, which is kind of giving us perspective to read what's going on, and to understand the beauty and perfection, Jamal and Kemal, behind what's going on. I just wanted to make this introduction because I felt excited to share this verse.
Very good. Actually, it's highly likely that indeed, Ustaz Nursi is interpreting that verse from Shu'ara, from the Quran. It's because Ustaz will talk about that human beings, how human beings can become friends of God, Halil. So it seems like you're actually, you have correctly detected it, I guess. And
there might be other verses as well, but this particularly just looks like matching almost 100%.
Yeah, there's a striking similarity to this topic. So last week, we also talked about fitra, the innate ability that God has embedded in our creation to observe the creation and find the creator behind the meanings of that realm. So now we will be Continuing from page 11, I'm going to read now. Thus, it may be seen from these three examples that being concentrated in them through the affirmation of divine unity, the innumerable sorts and varieties of divine beauty and lordly perfection are apparent in the particular beings at the extremities of the sphere of multiplicity and in all their states and conditions, and the certain existence of divine beauty and perfection is understood and established. It is because divine beauty and perfection are to be seen with the heart in the affirmation of divine unity and perceived by the spirit that all the saints and purified ones have found their sweetest illuminations and most delectable spiritual sustenance in repeated recitation of, quote, there is no God but God, end quote, the profession of divine unity. And it is because divine grandeur and magnificence, divine glory, and the absolute sovereignty of the Lordship of the eternally besotted one are realized in the profession of divine unity that God's noble messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, declared, أفضل ما قلت أنا ونبينا من قبل لا إله إلا الله. The best thing I and the prophets before me have said is, there is no God but God. Yes, although a small bounty, gift and sustenance like a flower, a fruit, or a light is a tiny mirror, through the mystery of divine unity, each suddenly stands shoulder to shoulder and joins with all its fellows. Being transformed into a large mirror, its species displays the sort of divine beauty which is manifested on it. With transient, fleeting beauty, it points to an everlasting, undying beauty. As Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi said, it becomes a mirror to divine beauty. If not for the mystery of the affirmation of divine unity, each particular fruit would remain on its own and would show neither that sacred beauty nor its elevated perfection. Even the particular flash of beauty within it would be extinguished and vanish. It would quite simply become its opposite. From being a diamond, it would turn into glass. Also, through the mystery of the affirmation of divine unity in living beings, which are the fruits of the tree of creation, is a divine personality, a lordly oneness, an immaterial face of the most merciful defined by the 7 attributes, a concentration of the names, and the manifestation of the determination and personification of the one who is addressed by the words, quote, you alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help, end quote. Quran chapter 1, the 5th verse. Otherwise, that personality, that oneness, that face the manifestation of that determination would expand to the extent of the universe, disperse and be hidden. It would be seen only by eyes of the heart that were truly vast and comprehensive. For the magnificence of divine grandeur would veil it. Not everyone could see it with the eye of the heart. Also, it is clearly understood from those particular living beings that their Maker sees them, knows them, hears them, and does as he wishes. Quite simply, behind the createdness of each living being, the immaterial personification and determination of one who has power and will, hears, sees, and knows is apparent to the one who believes. Especially behind the createdness of man from among living creatures, through belief and through the mystery of divine unity, that immaterial personification and determination are to be observed in extremely clear fashion. For samples of meanings such as knowledge, power, life, hearing, and sight, which are the basis of that personification of oneness, are present in men, and he indicates them through those samples. For example, the one who bestows the eyes both sees the eye and a subtle meaning, sees what the eye sees, then he bestows them. For sure, the oculist who makes some spectacles for your eyes sees that they are suitable for your eyes, then he makes them. and the one who bestows the ears surely hears what the ears hear. Then he makes them and bestows them. Examples for the other attributes may be made in the same way. Also, man bears the impressions and manifestations of the names. Through them, he testifies to those sacred meanings. Also, through his weakness, impotence, poverty, and ignorance, man, humankind, acts as a mirror in another way. He testifies to the power, knowledge, will, and other attributes of the one who has pity on his weakness and poverty and comes to his aid. Thus, since through the mystery of divine unity, 1,001 names, 1,001 divine names are concentrated in the furthest points and most scattered particulars of the sphere of multiplicity, in the tiny missives known as living beings, and are to be read most clearly, the all-wise Maker multiplies the copies of them extensively. He makes exceedingly numerous and various the copies of the species of small living beings in particular, and publishes them everywhere. So Nursi here tried to emphasize the meanings behind the particulars in the realm of the multiplicity. Why does he emphasize this? What does it entail to us? Harun Hocam, would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I can, but I see Colin Turner is here. So Colin Hocam, can you just start off? We started and it would be nice to hear from you.
Salam alaikum. Sorry, I wasn't able to connect. I've had computer problems since I got back to the UK. So since I've only just joined, Harun, please indulge me and
Sure, I can indulge you absolutely. Maybe one more point to talk about is that this second ray, I think it's a very tough text. Like if there is someone inside of us who haven't read the Turkish, the original of this second ray, I think definitely will have difficulty to understand what's going on here. But to clarify, I would like to just mention that this second ray actually is a continuum of 30th flash, which is about Esma-ül Hüsna and Ismi Azam actually. So we know that in 30th flash, Nursi talks about 6 great names. You know, Fard, Hay, Kayyum, Ad, Hakem, Kuddus, these names. And particularly, the second ray is about Ismi Ehad, and he defines Ismi Ehad as the 7th of the 6 names. So, in a way, it's a continuum of these 6 great names, and we are talking about one of the great names, which is Ismi Ehad. So, and when I go through this, I like, you know, taking into account 6 other names as well. So it gives me a way to practice all that I have learned in the 30th flash as well, which helps, you know, to contextualize and to understand this second ray in a better way. And as for your question, Hussein, I think you are taking us to particulars. I think this is all the second ray is about. This is about Ismi Ehad. So in a way, we are inclined to see the whole in a piece. Like we need to look at from holistic point of view. So it will be negligence from our side to look at the piece and not to see the whole picture. So by all means, Ismi Ehad just takes from any piece to the holistic picture. It's like I'm drawn in certain parts or particulars, but when Allah's mercy, reflection of Ismi Ehad particularly takes me, you know, to a bigger picture so that I can make sense of the particular as well. In other words, as we know, like this mirror example, if we just shatter or break a mirror, every piece of the mirror still will be a mirror. And I will be seeing any beauty happening in any piece of the mirror as well. Maybe it will be a smaller mirror, but it will still be a mirror, and it will not just neglect some part of the reality. the reality will be reflected in the parts of the mirror as well. I think this is what this whole second ray is about. Just see the reflection of Ismi Ahad, and by this way, Allah, the creator, is not neglecting any particular, anyone, any person, any animal, any leaf dropping by, any droplets, you know, coming down, falling down. Nothing is neglected from his power, from his will, from his knowledge, from his mercy, from his adl. Let's go back to 30th flash, from any big names and from any names, you know. That's my indulging, Colin Hocam.
It's the most excellent indulging. And that, I don't think I really need to even say anything, because you seem to have crystallized all of the different points that Ustad is making in this, the first fruit. And as you said, the focus here is ahadiyya. And for me, Tawheed is basically a way, or the only valid way of making sense of existence. So Tawheed, we know that it's part of our Aqidah, and it's always there first in the list of the boxes that we tick. You know, if we are reading down the list of Aqidah, of course, Tawheed is there. And it became very cliched, I think. Divine unity, divine oneness, these terms are very lightly understood. And of course, there is a translational problem when we talk about Ahad and Wahid. It's very difficult to get the nuance which exists in the Arabic, and also the theological nuance. It's very difficult to capture that in a translation that makes sense. But Tawheed itself is a way of understanding the creation. And in reality, it's the only way of understanding the creation. But if we just talk about divine oneness and divine unity, I never ever understood what divine unity actually means. Before I read the Risale and before I understood that Ustad Nursi actually deconstructs Tawheed and makes Tawheed readable. He makes the concept of Tawheed readable. And he does this at a very foundational level by this bifurcation of Tawheed into two major components, two central components, which is Ahadiyya and Wahadiyya. And the Ahadiyya aspect, and again, it's going to be very reductive in what I can say in just a few minutes, but Ahadiyya has to do with divine unicity. It has to do with uniqueness. It has to do with the fact that Allah creates and is creating every single thing. As Harun said, from the greatest to the smallest, from the largest galaxy to the smallest subatomic particle, creating everything in a unique way that has never ever been seen before. Although we are able to familiarize ourselves with the creation because we see similarity. But beneath that similarity, beneath that multiplicity, there is a uniqueness. And every single created being has a uniqueness that reflects and that betokens the unique creator, who we cannot pin down and say that the creator is like this or like that. Nor can we look at creation and, as we are often wont to do, as we are often very tempted to do, see things as the product of some cosmic photocopy machine, where we see, because of similarity, we see things as somehow being identical. If you look at snowflakes from a distance, and I think this is a good analogy, if we don't use our eyes properly, if we look at snowflakes from a distance, they look identical. And it's because we look at the world from a distance that we don't really understand it. When you look at snowflakes from close proximity, you will see that every single snowflake is, and it's a bit of tired and hackneyed and cliched example, but every single individual snowflake is unique. And that uniqueness points to a unique creator who is creating at all moments. It's not a creator who creates and then rests on the seventh day, you know, in accordance with this mistranslation and this misperception of that biblical verse where it says that God rested on the seventh day. God does not rest. And from this, we shouldn't picture a creator who is, like a hyperactive child, busy all the time. No, what it means is God's creative act is constant and consistent. And this avoids us picturing God as, this absentee landlord who creates and then lets everything just roll on in accordance with its own momentum. No, this is not the kind of creator that we have. Our creator is a hands-on creator at every moment creating. And this allows us to engage with the creator with immediacy and in a way that makes us realize that we are always being watched by him, and that we are always answerable to him, and that our belief has to be constant and consistent and questioned consistently. Sorry, I just went off course a little bit towards the end there, but this is what Ahadiyya means to me personally. And this is what Ustad, one of his great talents is deconstructing Tawheed and making Tawheed itself readable and understandable.
Thank you, Harun Hocam and Colin Hocam. I actually also thought about these names, Wahid and Ahad, on the difference between them. And Wahid literally means the one who has no partner. It's the single one, right? And Ahad means the one who has no similitude. So there is this little nuance. And I understand that we have two-way relationship between us and God. One is top-down and the other is bottom-up. The top one is, as far as I understand, it's stems from the name Wahid. It's the one who created all, right? But also, we have this spatial relationship between individuals and the creator, because every single of human beings are a spatial combination of those 1001 names or attributes. That means the uniqueness of every human being stems from the name Ahad. Otherwise, even I couldn't develop my own individual personality if there had been, let's say, 100 Husseins. How could I then develop my own individual personality and my own understanding of being an individual, right? It would be impossible. So actually, my own individual personality stems from the name Ahad. It's his uniqueness that that he created me as a spatial combination of those, attributes. Every human being is a reflection of a different combination. Is this a good analogy to understand this, Colin Hocam?
I think so. I mean, it's difficult to try to understand Allah as unique, because I can say that, I am unique, but at the same time, I am, in a sense, I appear not to be changing, from moment to moment. And therefore I can be pinned down. You can see me in a crowd and you know who I am, even though I'm unique, and I can do the same to you. But with Allah, it's difficult to explain, but because Allah cannot be pinned down, and of course, I'm not saying that Allah is changing from moment to moment, but his manifestations are changing from moment to moment. And therefore, although we have a kind of analogical relationship with Allah in that our uniqueness betokens his uniqueness, reflects his uniqueness, because we are finite, and we are ephemeral, and we are corporeal, and we are created, our uniqueness is different from his uniqueness. You know, as with every other name, you know, when we say Alim, we say that human beings can have knowledge and be knowledgeable, and Allah is also Alim. But we have to then make tanzi and say that, you know, we have to disavow any kind of absolute similarity, and we have to say, although there is a similarity, Allah is not Alim, not knowledgeable in the way that we are knowledgeable, because for me to know things, I have to learn. And for Allah, there is no learning. Now, his ahadiyya is also the same. I can say that, yes, I am unique and Allah is unique, but his uniqueness is not like my uniqueness.
Right.
And I think that gives a further layer, not of mystery, but of unfathomability. I cannot really understand how Allah is Alim without learning, because I have to learn. His learning is, his knowledge is immediate, is presential, you know, huzuri. Whereas mine is tahsili, I have to acquire it. And his uniqueness, and I think, I'm not sure whether this is what you were trying to say there, Hussein, but his uniqueness and my uniqueness are also different. My uniqueness is a reflection of his uniqueness, but his uniqueness is completely different to my uniqueness. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. It actually, it's related to the theme Ana wa Zarra, and it's a whole another topic, as we know. But yes, that's what I wanted to mention. And Fatih Abi writes on the chat panel saying, Ahad describes the unique relationships between the creator and each creation.
Actually, let's hear from Fatih Abi, since you mentioned his name. I would love to hear from him too.
Okay, Fatih Abi, would you like to join us?
I can't talk right now because of my surroundings.
Okay, all right. So Fatih is not available, I guess, to talk now, but he writes on the panel that differentiates between the meanings of Ahad and Wahid. He says Ahad describes the unique relationships between the creator and each creation, whereas Wahid, the name Wahid, describes all special relationships pointing to the same one creator. So it's a constant reflection going between the creator and each creation, is, you know, each one of them signaling the other in our relationships between God and human beings. I think this is clear here. We can go on from here now. I'm going to continue reading. So what impelled me to the truth of this first fruit was a certain feeling and experience. It was like this. At one time, due to my excessive feelings of pity, sympathy, and kindness, I was exceedingly touched and sorry for living beings, and of them intelligent beings and man, and particularly the oppressed and disaster-stricken. I exclaimed from my very heart, neither these monotonous laws which prevail over the world hear the woes of these powerless and weak unfortunates, nor do the overwhelming deaf elements and events hear them. Is there no one who will take pity on the wretched state and intervene in their plights? My spirit was crying out from its very depths. My heart called out with all its strength, do these fine creatures, these valuable goods, these yearning and grateful friends, have no owner, no master, no true friend who will look to their business, accompany them, and protect them? I think this is extra meaningful on this week, as we had this tragic earthquake, and I will ask Colin Hojam from you to make some dua at the end. I'm continuing now. Satisfying, soothing, and sufficient answer to the cries of my spirit and tumult of my heart was this: through the mystery of the Quran and light of belief and the mystery of divine unity, I perceive the particular favors and special assistance of the all-glorious one, who is all-merciful and compassionate above the law to those lovable creatures who weep and lament under the pressure of universal laws and the assaults of events, and his particular lordship towards everything directly, and the facts that he himself directs everything personally and listens to the plaints of all things, and that he is the true owner, protector, and master of everything. I felt an infinite joy in place of that endless despair. Being totally owned by such a glorious owner and being connected to him, in my view, all living beings gain in importance and value 1,000 times over. For since everyone takes pride in his master's honor and fame, and at the rank of the person to whom he is attached, and acquires a dignity through the unfolding of this relation through the light of belief and the state of being owned, and due to its strength, an ant vanquished the pharaoh and could feel the pride of 1,000 pharaohs who were heedless, imagined themselves to be independent and to own themselves, and had overweening pride, which was extinguished at the door of the grave, at their forefathers and the land of Egypt. And in the face of Nimrod's pride, which changed into torment and shame when he tasted the fangs of death, the fly pointed to the pride of its own relationship, reducing Nimrod's to nothing. The verse, Inna shirka la dhulmun adim, to assign partners to God is verily a great transgression, states that to associate with God is an infinite wrong. Assigning partners to God is a vast crime, since it transgresses the rights, honor, and dignity of all creatures. Only hell can cleanse it. I think this is the end of the PDF I received. Let me double check.
Yeah, it's a very long piece, actually.
Is that okay? Let me double check here.
Yeah, that's the end, I think. Yeah.
I haven't noticed this. Sorry. Let me connect to a website, and I can continue from there. Sorry for this technical disruption.
I think we can start discussing on these points since it's quite long.
Yeah. So, Hocam, do you have anything in mind?
Actually, I want to just.
No, I don't. Yeah. I don't. No, I don't. No, please.
I just want to put forward, you know, how realistic what Said Nursi puts in front of us. I said at the beginning, like he's writing this treatise as an outcome of his own search for a question that he follows. That's his question, and we know from Risale-i Nur he has sayings in a similar way. Like he says, "The problem is mine, but the cure is from Quran." I think this is absolutely very important point. Like if I don't have a question, if I don't have a problem, then it is, I think, very trivial to look for solutions or to read for solutions, to look for remedies. It's kind of, I think it is our very nature, or this is how we are created, that I need to identify my own problem so that, you know, the Quran or Prophet's sayings should cure to my very special illnesses. So I see this is an excellent example. Like he starts from the point of view that he doesn't understand why earthquake happens, why people are smashed, why all belongings perish, you know, for nothing. So these are very bold questions, and these are very frankly asked questions, and this is very human, you know. These days I hear, you know, a lot of sayings like be patient, you know, this and that, but I never hear such things. Like I feel the calamity and I don't understand why this is happening under a merciful creator. I don't hear something frankly like that. And for this reason, then we cannot switch back to Quran or Prophet saying that's going to cure my questions or sicknesses. I just wanted to put this forward, you know.
Thank you. I just opened up my browser and I have the text available right now. Do you see that? Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Shall we continue, or Colin Hocam, do you have anything to say here?
I would like to echo what Harun said. We hear, and maybe this will be reflected, unfortunately, in the dua that we make. We hear a lot of things which appear on the surface to be like cliches. And I think people need answers at times like this. And of course, it's difficult to give a blanket answer. It's difficult to give one answer because everyone has different ways of understanding and processing. And that's why I think it's not really wise to give one answer and to expect everyone to understand. Because when you say, for example, inshallah, Allah will give you patience in the light of what has happened, you know, if you are on the receiving end of a tragedy, such as the tragedy we've seen this last week, for others, it doesn't mean anything because they don't know why this happens. If Allah is merciful, then why is this happening? These things need to be answered, and it's very, very difficult to give one answer and expect everyone to take exactly the same from it. So I have no solution to this. At the end of the day, one has to be as benign and, in a sense, as uncontroversial as possible, because you can cause more damage. And this is why Ustad Nursi says that the causes are there, in a sense, to be scapegoated, you know, to be blamed. Because some people, their belief is fragile at the best of times. Even strong believers have moments when their belief is fragile. And therefore, there are these safety valves, you know, and one of these safety valves is to blame causes. And we know that causes can't create. But nonetheless, Ustad Nursi is a pragmatist, he's a realist, he's a pastoral theologian, and he knows how to shepherd, you know. He knows how to look after his flock because he has learned how to look after himself. And we see in his texts, we see in his discourse, then he asks these questions, these searching questions, and he says, look, I was pained by this. I was aggrieved by this. Why is this happening? You know, he's not afraid to ask very difficult questions. But then he says always, then the light of the Quran came to me, and, you know, because he was asking in a very, his intention was very pure. He was asking very pure questions, difficult questions, but his intention was pure. And because of that, he got the answers, and the answers came from the Quran. I just wanted to echo what Harun was saying, because I find that at times like this, it's very easy to be quite glib, you know, and to give easy answers, but without really satisfying people's need to know.
Right, and these insights are the result of a person who had experienced these sorts of difficulties. And that's why it has relevance to us now.
Of course, I mean, his whole life was beset by the most egregious difficulties. You know, we don't have to go back and you know the poisonings and the imprisonment and the house arrest and just this egregious way that the state treated him. All of this. So all of this is experiential. We know that he's speaking from experience. Yes. And he says, due to my excessive feelings of pity, sympathy, and kindness, he was touched and sorry for living beings. Now, who can look at the television pictures that we've seen? And I was in Turkey when it happened. And who can look at those pictures and not, apart from feeling pity and sympathy and all of these things, even with belief, even with strong conviction,
Right.
you start to ask quite difficult questions. And this is what he's talking about here. The answers will come. But my point is that I don't think it's easy just to give one answer and expect that answer to be satisfying for everyone. I think different groups of people, different kinds of people, different kinds of mindset require different answers, to be honest.
Yes, exactly. And I think Nursi is very sincere here, inviting everybody to his emotional, world, trying to seek answers to those tough questions. And as you say, the answers may come after some time reflecting on these, difficult questions. But the thing
And
that
maybe we need to say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
At this point, I think also we need to say these are not shallow arguments. He puts this Ahadiyya concept from a pain that he felt, from a serious problem that he has seen, and he just solved the problem by the mystery of the Quran, and he's putting it in front. And that solution, like all Muslims, all humankind, of course, but maybe particularly Muslims, are in need of, understands, that's very ontological, cosmological question. So he such smartly and such digestedly finds a solution. And from the beginning, these are his judgments on Ism Ahad, and he then tells the story behind. So I love that. And really, I think there is no way for me to come closer to Ism Ahad and understand what's going on, because here the messages from all sicknesses, just see the giver of sicknesses. From all cures, just see the giver of the cures. From all, sustenance, just look at the sustainer behind. So he is so quickly taking us to that level. And I would say that that's a really cure. This is a personal cure, I would say.
Yes.
I think that's the only solution, the only answer you can give. If you don't come to that conclusion, then you will never ever have solace. You will never ever have resolution. Your spirit will always cry out from its depths. As Ustad is saying here, my spirit was crying out from its very depths. My heart called out with all its strength. And if you don't go to the ahad, if that's not your maqsad, if that's not your destination, then you will never ever have resolution. You will never ever have comfort and consolation.
Thank you, Khalil Najam. We are coming to the end. It's 20:47 in Turkey right now, and I would ask you to make a short dua for those who had suffered the earthquake, and for all of us who have this trauma. We have now, we have been also inflicted by this psychologically. And I will ask Jazmi Abi after you to pray in Arabic a little bit, and we will finish then. Please.
So may Allah bless and keep everyone who has been thinking about this tragedy, for their gracious and compassionate intentions. May Allah raise all of those who've lost their lives on account of this tragedy. May He raise them all to the state of true witness, to the state of shaheed, to shahada. And may Allah bestow forbearance and, more than anything else, understanding on all of those who are grief-stricken and heartbroken, inshallah.
Amen. Thank you. Jazmi Abi, would you like to do some dua? Is he online? Okay. we have come to the end of our episode today.
Don't we have 10 more minutes? Hussein, I think you're cutting it short. Come on.
We have. I thought the dua section would be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
This
That's why you put it front. But I will not let you close before,
We shouldn't go now. You said keep the dua short. 10 minutes, I think. 10 minutes, I think, is too long for a dua.
It's all relevant, right, Kolnaja? Being short and long.
There's a point actually I want to, also discuss together here, which is one thing is that, here I always say this as level of abstraction. So here, Said Nursi asks us to make abstractions, like you see instances of things, and he asks us to generalize, to make abstraction. Like if you see a cure, just think about the cure in all the world, in all the universe, if possible. So that's what I mean by abstraction. And actually, this is the way of our thinking, the way mathematics work, the way logic works in the first place. We generalize everything. Like you say 2 + 2 = 4, then you do this for all numbers. You say, x plus y, to the power of something mathematical expression, then you generalize it. And this generalization is very important. One modern example is, everybody knows, I'm quite sure, is, for instance, ChatGPT software. Actually, ChatGPT software is a generalization from mankind's perspective. Like, we are bringing all the tools together and we are just generalizing a tool such that it becomes so beautiful. It's like here we know that in this treatise, Nursi suggests all the beauty and perfection is seen by means of Tawhid, right? In a way, with all mankind, we are bringing the tools together, and this bringing together gives us a product which is beautiful, which reflects all the beauty, all the kemal, or all the perfection all together. So I think this treatise, in short, is about this abstraction and level of abstraction and how this is a quality of human being and how it relates to see the beauty and perfection in any case. I think this point is important. And also with this relation, I want to ask this Rumi's passage. I don't know if it is here, but Colin Hocam, especially I want to ask this to you, since it is in Persian originally. Like Ustad says that, the trapments for Evliya is actually, they are the mirrors of, beauty and perfection. If you, Hussein, can you take it over there? And if there is Persian of it, I don't know, available. But Colin Hocam, if you know it, like Nursi calls trapments of Evliya, actually they are the, mirrors to the beauty. And I think this is with respect to abstraction again, but Rumi mentions, especially from translation, that it's danger for Evliya, but in reality it is to understand beauty and perfection.
No, I don't know that particular, if it's a quatrain or whether it's is it from Masnavi or is it from Rubaiyat, or do you know?
I don't know. It says, it is the quote actually. Do you see it, Hussein, here? Can you just highlight it if you see it?
Yeah.
Maybe I can ask it later.
Yeah, the second way, right?
Yeah, maybe in WhatsApp
definitely.
we can discuss it.
I think because
sure.
If I'm reciting it correctly, an hayalati ki dami evliyast, aksi mehriyani bostan khudast.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe I can ask this in particular, but yeah, I just wanted to emphasize this abstraction.
Yeah, I think that, abstracting across the whole of creation from one particular to the whole, This is something that Ahad and Wahid obviously calls for all the time. This kind of cross-referencing as well.
And also here, Ustad Nursi mentions, especially this school of thought, Shafi's reflect a lot this salawat, right? So this salawat is kind of, can you emphasize it on the screen, Hussein? I see this salawat. Grant blessings to our Master Muhammad, to the family of Muhammad, to the number of ills and their remedies, and bless him, and this salawat. If you see, it's also with this salawat, as you say, it is very cliche in a way, but Nursi says that it is a perspective. It's a very beautiful perspective that we need to put on always. And maybe for this reason, Shafis just adopt this salawat, you know, in daily prayers. And this is a great point too, right? It's not just to get being cured, but it's just to get the perspective. It's just to make this abstraction. Just get away from this single cure, get away from this single sickness, but look at this all cure in this city, in this town, you know, in this world. However far you can, then that's the perspective, you know, you will feel Allahu Ahad in a way.
I think the most important thing, particularly in the light of what's happened, is education. And this is something which lies at the door of our ulama, and our imams, and anyone who engages with, you know, reality and calls themselves a teacher. Education is needed, because otherwise these things happen and we don't learn from them. You know, in Quran it says that some verses are revealed singly and others are revealed in groups, and sometimes a whole surah is revealed. What happened this week is a whole surah being revealed. You know, it has that kind of force, because every day in this world 300,000 people approximately die. If you remember the tsunami, 300,000 people died in an hour or in 2 hours. So
right.
Instead of a single verse being revealed, sometimes a whole surah is revealed. And these things are there for us to sit down and not just to grieve over, but to also try to understand in all of its aspects. And that means also abstracting. It means taking this event and trying to extrapolate from it to understand its place in existence, its place in cosmic existence. What does it mean? How do we read it? How do we read it? Because everything is a verse or a surah to be read. And I don't think that we do this. Maybe we will read, you know, namaz ayat, you know, when something happens, if there is an earthquake, we're supposed to, there is a special namaz. The same also for khusuf, I can't remember the English word.
Yeah, special prayers for,
yes,
for this
khusuf and
occasion.
khusuf. What's the English word? I've forgotten. I've lost it.
Yeah, even I couldn't remember.
You know what I mean. Anyway, so at times like this, praying for rain and all of these things.
Lunar eclipse.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, eclipse, lunar and solar eclipse. We may do that, but do we actually discuss it? And what does it mean? How are we going to read it? Because it's there to be read. There's so much that needs to be done.
Exactly, intervened, but that's our ajz at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
and again, that's important.
Yeah.
Ajz is important. It's important to understand that these things happen to show us our ajz as well.
And again, maybe Ikra, reading, importance of reading, as you say, and Ikra bismi rabbikum, right?
Absolutely.
Reading it correctly, that's the key.
Do you mean transcendental meaning beneath these happenings, Colin Hajam?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that can be understood from these things. As we said before, everyone is going to be able to take something from it, but it's there for a reason. It's not just there to shake us up physically. It's there to shake us up conceptually as well. Allah.
Thank you. And I just remember Ibrahim alayhi salam's story, right? When he says, I don't prostrate before something that, that downs the sun. And yes. So we have some clues from the Quranic text to read the, universe, the cosmological events that are being unfolded in front of our eyes. So we have some tools actually, in the Quran. It is very concise, ayahs maybe, but these are the times, these are the contexts to utilize them, I guess. Thank you so much, Colin Hajam. I used the
Thank
word.
you, Sain.
I used the wrong word, relevant. I said it's relative. So short and long are relative terms. Sometimes people take a lot more time making du'as, but thank you for those beautiful du'as. And we will continue from the second fruit next week. I just wanted to stop there since the PDF stops there. So hopefully we will continue next week, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.